to Sacred Spaces. I'm Laura Kelly and today we're meeting Roger Nelson, one of the principals of NH Architecture. Roger, welcome to the show.
Thank you, thank you.
Now we're standing in front of your sacred space of Melbourne and it's quite a personal building for you. Can you talk us through that?
Yes, certainly. Well, the Myer redevelopment and the redevelopment of the Myer department store has been a major commission for our company at NH Architecture, and we put 4 years of effort into it, and it's, for me personally, I've always been involved in retail development. And although I grew up in Western Australia, I was born here in Victoria, and it's been one of those things to be able to have the opportunity to work on something as central to Melbourne's retail activities as the Myer Emporium has been a fantastic thing. And of course what we've done is to produce a design that's bespoke to Myer and to its residency in Melbourne, and that's been a major episode in our lives and something we're very proud of.
Would you like to show us through the interior of the building?
Absolutely, absolutely. We can't wait. Come this way.
So Roger, we're inside the Myer redevelopment. Feels very light and airy in here.
Yeah, well that was one of the major initiatives that we wanted to achieve, was the sort of lightness to the store and making sure that, as has happened traditionally over the last couple of decades in retail development, it's generally been a black boxing process where you get the customers in and you hope if you disorient them and let them become disconnected from the rest of their world, they'll miraculously buy something. And everyone will be better off, but a dazed and confused customer will leave wondering what the hell they've just gone through. So in this instance, there was an opportunity, we thought, well, particularly with the facade, which we can see over there, where all the paint's been taken off the windows and so much light and is coming in from that southern facade. But also in particular was this atrium space where it was actually deliberately inclined to capture the sun and the path of the sun over the seasons, and reflect down into the space, not in a harsh way, but just to get that light.
Yes.
And it's a very generous space, and of course, you know, that's a bit counterintuitive to an average retailer because essentially it's selling space. But then here we've got 7 levels to get people up and down. So inclining the space and being able to also have this dynamism. It just didn't make it seem so far up there. You know, you're not going to get a nosebleed going up the top. And also it actually flares out as well, so there's a sort of perspectival trick that makes it seem closer to you than it probably is.
Right.
Then the whole shape of the void is then culminates in the big triangular shaped windows, which we'll see later on. And that sort of captures the blue sky and even the winter sky. You know, still a lot of light comes in through that. And it's been great. It's a great result.
And again, that connects with what you were saying when we were outside the building, of that idea that you didn't want the outside and the inside to be two separate spaces.
That's
you actually want us to have a feeling of being able to walk in and say, oh yeah, okay.
Well, I mean,
this matches.
So when you're outside, you come inside and the place reveals itself, but it seems as though it's one whole building. It hasn't got a sort of schizophrenia, which can often happen when a building's designed on the outside and another agenda's played out on the inside. I mean, Myer in particular and our client Colonial were really right onto all that. They wanted a building that was whole, and was a whole package. And so there's been a sort of merging of the physical environment that Myer have now got themselves here, and their retailing strategy and how they present themselves to the wider world at large. And of course, I should point out that this is bespoke to the Melbourne situation. This is a flagship for Myer. It's not as if this will be rolled out all over the country, so it's particular to Myer and the Melbourne Myer store. That's what it's all about.
So Roger, we're upstairs, we're on level 6 at the moment.
Yes.
This is amazing.
Well, it's really the piece de resistance. I mean, there's 2 things on this level. There's the mural hall, which is behind us, and that's yet to be revealed. But it's an exquisite renovation of the and it's about to turn 100, I believe.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, later this year, and then we have the pavilion here, or the folded roof section, which we can sort of see from outside, and you get a hint of it on the facade. But here we are in this space, and the mezzanine section, which is level 7. And that nice nailing gun going in the background there, which is progress and endeavour still going on.
I mean, I must say, it's a spectacular space up here. It's just phenomenal. The folded ceiling is an amazing feature.
Yeah, well, it's again, we were talking earlier about the whole way that the building on the outside is represented on the inside as well. So the way in which the roof form works is very evident, obviously, when you're inside here. And we've also removed a lot of the columns. Well, sorry, there weren't columns. I mean, in the design, you've got these big V-shaped columns that just hold the whole roof up, and on the perimeter of the site, and then these little cluster of columns. And really, what happens is you come up the escalators up our big atrium space, and then arrive at the facade here at the back, looking over little Bourke Street, and then go up the escalators in the distance there that we can see, and look out across the cityscape. So your view, your reward as you arrive at the top is this whole view of Melbourne. And of course, on a day like today, it's at its absolute picture card, postcard best.
Absolutely. Now, you've got a lot of experience in retail architecture. What is it that you hope to bring to a space when you're working on a project like this? What is it that you want people to get out of a space like this?
Well, I think that's an interesting question, because for so long there has been a period where retail design and the building elements have been asked to be a little bit more simplified and stripped down, meaning that the retail activity is the thing that is the dominant element. But now it's sort of moving to a situation where the building and the retail enterprise have a partnership, and the building's actually got to give something. I mean, retail environments can change quite quickly, can be refitted, they can be a subject of fashion and so on, but a building is a relatively permanent thing. And once you've done it, the gestation period is relatively long, and having invested all that money, you obviously don't necessarily want to change it again. So it's actually got to have a resonance with the city it sits in. It's got to have a resonance with the community and its customer base and the people who use it and identify with it. And it's also got to have a sort of liveliness and a dynamism that means that every time you come into it and participate with it, it's actually a little bit different. And of course, in this instance, a very basic thing. We've just used the fact that you can access and see outside, daylight, the seasons, and retail is fundamentally seasonal. I mean, you have winters and springs, and there's a spring racing carnival, and people like Myer are very much bonded to those seasonal events. So the celebration of the city's annual pattern, you might say, can be manifest in the building. So you're very much part of it, and it'll be doing different things at different times. And Melbourne is, of course, a place where the seasons are very evident.
Shopping as well is so integral to Melbourne.
Yes, absolutely.
And you sort of see retail spaces not just as somewhere where you have to go in and make a transaction, but actually somewhere that we can enjoy as part of our cultural life in the city, don't you?
Absolutely. I think, well, Melbourne is obviously a pretty sophisticated city when it comes to retail activity, and we're very heavily involved in advising the city and the state on those matters. But just as a general observation, retail activity is not the sort of hard edge of it, just about the transaction. I mean, the transaction is the ultimate means of, you hand your money over and you get the product, but and much of life's like that in many respects. So that's a prosaic thing, and it seems to us that the real engagement comes from an idea of exchange, so that the customer or the user or the participant or the public come to a building and there's an exchange. The building actually gives them something back. So there's a reward in a way. And a generosity that's not achieved necessarily in other retail formats, where the building is overcluttered, there's too much stock, it's actually quite intimidating, and it doesn't behave in a way that actually makes the customer feel comfortable or allow them to become comfortable and sort of get their head around it. So in the end, there are so many other channels of distribution and transaction these days. The bricks and mortar element has to lift to another level, and of course that's what we've definitely done here at Myer, is actually make the building central to Myer's activities and its perception of in the marketplace, and give it a sort of a pinnacle, something that's aspirational and is inexorably linked to the activities of Melbourne.
Well, Roger, it's been absolutely amazing seeing through this space. I must say you've done a spectacular job.
Yeah, thank you. It is It's as the show intends. It's one of great personal effort and the effort of our team, and the commitment of Myer and Colonial as our client, Colonial First State. So, you know, these opportunities really don't come along that often, and when it all comes together and it comes together like this, it's obviously a very proud and significant moment.
Absolutely. Well, I can certainly see why this has become your sacred space in Melbourne. So thank you so much for being on the show with us.
Thank you.